¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday morning. Howdy, everybody. Ooh, we got a few things to go through. How's everybody doing? Welcome. Today is the beginning of a long weekend. So, that's good. Doing good. That's good to hear, my friend. Got a few things to go through, so I think we should get started. Afternoon. Howdy, howdy. All right. This one is a bit of a meme. Trump begs for donations from Mar-a-Lago as Hurricane Ian wreaks destruction across Florida. Yeah, the Hurricane Ian is a very destructive storm. At this point, hundreds of people, I think, are presumed dead. This is a mass casualty, I think, storm. One of the worst storms that we've had in a while, if not period, on the west coast of Florida. Millions are without power at this point. Storm surge was reported to be up to 12 feet. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It is heartbreaking to see. Don't give Trump money. He's going to use it on lawyers. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's a grift, so. Gotta fleece the flock, yeah? That's all he knows how to do. Did you see the latest ad from Marjorie Taylor Greene? No, like the campaign ad? I would certainly like a link to that. Oh, I think this was. Yeah, I think that this is what they were talking about in the majority report. Jesus Christ. Let's see if we can find it. The actual ad itself. Oh, here we are. Alright, so I guess we'll start with that. Well, MTG is getting, Marjorie Taylor Greene is getting divorced, yeah. Here we are.
We've got skyrocketing inflation, high diesel fuel, and Democrats' America Last policies. Democrats aren't the only ones.
Wait, what? What? Okay, so again, unless the Democratic Party has the ability to create inflation across the world, this is this doesn't make any sense.
And destroying farmers' ability to put food on the table. We've got wild hogs destroying farmers' fields. So we decided to go hog hunting.
Oh my god.
Let's help American farmers out. Sign up below and let's go in that helicopter and go hog hunting. Enter to win now.
What the heck is this? Okay. Does she have a hunting license for that? Probably not. I don't know. I'm not gonna. I don't know. Apparently, there's some like weird loopholes that allow people who have the money, who have the money are classified as like some kind of BS loophole to be able to do this kind of stuff in Texas, because it's not technically legal. They've just created like a small loophole. She wants you to shoot hogs from a helicopter with her. Yeah, I mean, like, I think that it's pretty implicit. The little stochastic kind of message, underlying message. Check your Tinder pages, fellas. We got a newbie out there, that's right. Definitely a catch. As far as I know, that's not the type of gun you would use. I don't know what type of gun you would use. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. Like, make no mistake, like all these wild hogs and whatnot are undeniably an ecological problem, but this is not the way. This is just weird. Wild hogs are pretty dangerous. An actual hunter would just go with a rifle, but can't fault an amateur to go for an assault rifle. Yeah, I mean, like yeah, but what she's doing is ridiculous. What she's doing is ridiculous and kind of I don't know, weird. This is not the way I would do it. Kind of dangerous since you could actually get a hiker. Yeah. Oh, we might we might go over this if we have time. Just eat the wild hogs. Wild boar meat is leaner than standard pork and far richer tasting. Never had it. Alright, here, I think this is a juicy 13-second clip from the organizer of Stop the Steal. Or one of the organizers, Ali Alexander. Remember, the premise of the Stop the Steal is that there was some shenanigans going on in the election and, well, whatever, the election was stolen, blah, blah, blah. Let's take a listen.
Ali Alexander says, vote! Vote for Doug Mastriano. In fact, if you could find a way to secretly vote twice, no, I'm just kidding. But am I? Don't get caught.
Don't get caught, right. So the organizer of Stop the Steal is is encouraging people to engage in voter fraud. Nice. He'll be the human sacrifice? What do you mean? Like he'll be like the person on the ground instead of like the Trumps of the world? He's gonna be the one taking the L? Is that what you're saying? It will take him down and leave Trump and Stone and Bannon. You think so? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I just find it incredibly ironic that the guy who organized Stop the Steal is telling people to engage in the very same things he's accusing the other party of doing. It's a good meme. It's a good meme and just kind of indicative of just how much of a farce and how much of a grift this entire thing is. No principles whatsoever. Anyways. It's with the projection mindset, they never see it in themselves. Right. Okay, let's move on to this one here. In a reversal, the Education Department is excluding many from student loan relief. I don't know why they came to this determination, but let's take a look. In a remarkable reversal that will affect the fortunes of many student loan borrowers, the U.S. Department of Education has quietly changed its guidelines around who qualifies under President's sweeping student debt relief plan. At the center of the change are borrowers who took out federal student loans many years ago, both Perkin loans and federal family education loans, or FFEL loans, issued and managed by private banks but guaranteed by the federal government, were once the mainstay of the federal student loan program until the FFEL program ended in 2010. Today, according to federal data, more than 4 million borrowers still have commercially held FFEL loans. Until Thursday, today, the department's own website advised these borrowers that they could consolidate these loans into federal direct loans and thereby qualify for relief under Biden's debt cancellation program. This was the original guidance right here. All loans, are federal family education loans or Perkin loans eligible for debt relief. All loans eligible for student loan pause are also eligible for relief, including loans held by ED and guarantee agencies. ED is the Education Department, I assume, is assessing whether to provide relief to borrowers with privately owned federal student loans, including FFEL and Perkin loans, and is discussing this with private lenders. In the meantime, borrowers with privately held federal student loans can receive this relief by consolidating these loans into their direct loan program. All eligible borrowers will have until December 31st of 2023 to submit an application for debt relief. FFEL joint consolidation loans, often referred to as spousal consolidation loans, are not eligible for consolidation to direct loan program under current law. On Thursday, though, the department quietly changed its language. The guidance as of now, meaning as of September 29th, borrowers with federal student loans not held by ED cannot obtain one-time debt relief by consolidating those loans to direct loans. So they walked that back. So the Biden administration has walked this back, which is unfortunate and unnecessary. What is the issue here? Why is this so hard to just say, like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to do like a blanket student loan relief. An administration official tells NPR this change will not affect all 4 million borrowers with commercially held FFEL loans. The official said that many FFEL borrowers also have direct loans and can still qualify to consolidate those FFEL loans, though that detail is not included in the department's updated guidance. Ultimately, this administration official says roughly 800,000 borrowers would be directly affected. It is unclear why the department reversed its decision allowing FFEL borrowers with commercially held loans to consolidate and then qualify for debt relief. In a statement to NPR, a department spokesperson said, "Our goal is to provide relief to as many eligible borrowers as quickly and easy as possible, and this will allow us to achieve that goal while we continue to explore additionally legally available options to provide relief to borrowers with privately owned FFEL loans and Perkin loans, including whether FFEL borrowers could receive a one-time debt relief without needing to consolidate. Borrowers with privately held federal student loans who applied to consolidate their loans into direct loans before September 29th of 2020 will obtain one-time debt relief. The federal Family Education Loan Program is now defunct and only a small percentage of borrowers have FFEL loans. Detail in that statement is legally available." Hold on, I got you. There we go. They're cowards who never fight for anything better, ever. They're scared of Ted Cruz's court threats. Because Betsy DeVos is in charge and her husband runs the companies holding student debt. Yeah, well, some people are getting are just gonna get the finger from the Biden administration. So yeah, that's kind of sucks, dude. Multiple legal experts tell NPR that the reversal in policy was likely made out of concern that the private banks that manage old FFEL loans could potentially file lawsuits to stop the debt relief when arguing that Biden's plan would cause them financial harm. Jesus Christ. When FFEL borrowers consolidate their loans into federal direct loans, these private banks essentially lose business. If these banks' financial health depends, and at least in part, on the assumption that they would be holding and profiting from these debts, oh my god. Oh my god, this is disgusting. Wait, Miguel Cardona is DeVos' husband? What? Then losing borrowers to Biden's debt relief plan could possibly constitute harm. This is some bullshit. I mean, like, the fact that this is even a thing is quite infuriating. Sadly, the banks and the GOP actually make President Biden's plans impossible. Nah, this one's on him. I'm not making excuses. I'm not making excuses for him on this one. This is bullshit. He could also pressure Congress into making regulations to try to kind of get rid of these predatory loans. But yeah, there's no wiggle room here. And in fact, a new lawsuit filed on Thursday by 6 states, 6 state attorney generals, makes this very argument. One of the plaintiffs in Missouri is home to MOHELA, which manages both federal direct loans and these old FFEL loans. The consolidation of Moela, I'm going to call it, and FFELP harms the entity by depriving it of an asset that it currently owns. The consolidation of these loans harms the entity by depriving it of the ongoing interest payments that those loans generate, which should have never happened in the first place. This is kind of like, this is proof as to why, like, half measures don't really work. You either attempt to solve the problem or you don't, right? Ultimately, this is the problem with half measures. In response to the lawsuit, PersistU, the Student Borrower Protection Center, says the FFEL lenders have shown their true colors instead of working in the interest of student loan borrowers, because that's not in the interest. Wait, no, their interest isn't student loan borrowers. Their interest is profit, and to make sure that these people are continuing to pay them interest. Their quote customers, although I wouldn't go as far as that. And these lenders are holding hostage relief to millions of borrowers in order to keep making a buck or two off a borrower's suffering. Changing the policy now and limiting the number of FFEL borrowers who can conceivably qualify for this debt relief may make these FFEL banks less likely to legally oppose the debt relief. Now you're setting up for some more economic advantage and leaving others behind, just like those who already paid and those taking loans now. It's half baked. These difficulties are why I don't want loans. Yeah, well, student loans shouldn't be a thing. Like, the concept of student debt shouldn't exist. The concept of, like, medical debt shouldn't exist. That's the issue here. All right. Some meme news. But it's an investment in future. Yeah, bro, can't invest money you don't have and might never have. Never mind that it's your employer that's going to profit off your education. Right. Exactly. It's such bullshit. Like, the idea of student loans and student debt shouldn't be a thing. I mean, like, it isn't really a thing in a lot of countries. The Party of Family Values. Marjorie Taylor Greene's husband, files for divorce, saying in court docs that marriage was irretrievably broken. You don't need to put lefty in your tags, bro. If you're on Twitch, you're a lefty. That's not entirely true, dude. What a dumb comment. I can put whatever tags I want. First of all. And second of all, that's not entirely true. If you're on Twitch, you're a lefty. That's not true. What about the gamers? What about all the gaming content? That's not even political. Representative Major Marjorie Taylor Greene, her husband, Perry Greene, filed for divorce on Wednesday. According to court documents seen by Insider, Perry Greene and the conservative congresswoman, it is, though, they are forced into Twitter leftism. What is Twitter leftism? Bro, are you okay? That's the guy who that broke the marriage. Her personal trainer in Russian honeypot. Oh yeah, you can send me that via whispers. What the heck is Twitter? Is Twitter leftism? And what do you mean forced? Nobody's forcing you to do anything. According to court documents seen by Insider, Perry Greene, the conservative congresswoman, had been married for just over 27 years. In his petition, Perry Greene wrote that he and the congresswoman had been in a bona fide state of separation before he filed the papers in Georgia's Floyd County. He added their marriage was irretrievably broken. He also asked that the divorce be filed under seal, saying the record will contain sensitive personal and financial information, and the public disclosure of which would negatively impact the party's privacy interests. Yes. This makes sense. Glutinous. Marjorie Taylor Greene, according to court filings, acknowledged the receipt of the divorce petition on Wednesday. When contacted for comment, the Congresswoman's representative told Insider that the divorce was a private and personal matter. Marriage is a wonderful thing, and I'm a firm believer in it. Except, it's kind of hard to talk about that when you're in the middle of a divorce. Yikes. Who's the conservative guy with the big head who's starting to stream here recently? You mean the person who's currently under investigation for child trafficking? The Republican who's currently under investigation for child trafficking? Yeah, that guy? Interesting. Our society is formed by a husband and wife creating a family to nurture and protect, except when it's not. Because you're in the middle of a divorce. You can't, it's very hard to believe that you care about any of these things or are really principled while you're undergoing this, right? Matt Gaetz had 6 viewers and 30-minute stream. That's funny. Is this the new James from the internet emote? That's great. That moment when you have almost twice as many viewers as Matt Gaetz. That's funny. Barry and I formed our family and raised 3 great kids. He gave me the best job title he can ever earn, Mom, and I always be grateful of how great of a dad he is to our children. Except didn't you, cheat on him, Miss Family Values? Who believes in family, I guess? Barry Green told the Insider, the Congresswoman was his best friend of the last 29 years and an amazing mom. Our family is the most important thing we've ever done. So then why separate? What's the issue? If, you feel this way about each other, why the separation? Somebody's not telling us the full story here. Our family is the most important thing we've ever done. As we go on different paths, we continue to focus on our 3 incredible kids and a future endeavor in our friendship. Insider analysis of the Green Financial holdings indicate Marjorie Taylor Greene and Barry Green have significant wealth and jointly own numerous stocks, which which could add complexity to the divorce proceedings. CrossFit tantric sex is more important than her family. It's a choice.
Please clap.
That's funny. The party of family values, huh? Late again. Sorry, it's okay. He's better off, in my opinion. True. As Marjorie Taylor Greene is a Trump lapdog constantly, of course, the marriage will break. Yeah, but, I mean, in order to be with her, that guy must have been somewhat, supportive of that, right? Either way, the point is the, hypocrisy. That's what I'm trying to point out. The fact that these people have no principles whatsoever. That's it. He was crushed by an abusive relationship with a narcissist and he's free now. Well, good on him if that's the case. Alright. I think we can just do this one and go into the other topics. Prosecutors used email to build case against key Trump ally. Prosecutors cracked open a trove of emails and other communications at a federal trial on Thursday that they say shows how the former chair of Donald Trump's inaugural committee worked behind the scenes in 2016 to get the future president to embrace the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. Some of the email traffic was between Tom Barrack, accused of working at the direction of the UAE as a secret foreign agent, and Paul Manafort, Trump's campaign manager at the time. The exchanges focused in part on over an energy policy speech by Trump in 2016. In one email read to the jury by an FBI agent, Barack complained to Manafort that an original draft of the speech didn't mention either the UAE or Saudi Arabia or the importance of their role in the Middle East. I'm just stunned by how bad this is, said the billionaire private equity manager who wrote about the draft. Manafort responded, "Send me an insert that works for our friends." The speech Trump gave ended up referring to the need to team up with our supportive Gulf allies as part of a broader strategy to fight terrorism in the region. Afterwards, Barack received an email from the UAE official congratulating him for doing a, quote, great job. Other emails, Manafort assured those in the back channel network that he would get to Trump to tone down his anti-Muslim rhetoric and that he would set up face-to-face meetings between Trump, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia leaders. Another Barack email indicated that he lobbied Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner on Manafort's behalf to get Manafort the campaign manager post. Manafort was eventually convicted in special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation and later pardoned by Donald Trump. Prosecutors say that the communications demonstrate Barack's efforts to manipulate the Trump campaign and later his administration to advance the interests of the UAE. They say at the same time, the energy-rich Gulf state poured millions of dollars into business ventures operated by Barack. Barack, 75, has pleaded not guilty to charges accusing him of acting as an unregistered agent of a foreign government, obstruction of justice, and making false statements. In his opening statement this week, defense attorney Stephen Schachter insisted that there was no evidence that Barack ever took orders from the UAE or betrayed his country by becoming a covert agent. Tom Barack is his own man. Well, we'll see. We shall see. Barack is a real estate investor. Gotcha. All right, so so far they're all still walking the streets. Yep. Accountability nowhere to be found. All right, so let's talk about this. The Supreme Court, Alito previously said questioning the Supreme Court's legitimacy crosses an important line. How can I close this thing? Okay. Crosses an important line, and he also said, quote, This is just to kind of set up where we're going. It goes without saying that everyone's is free to express disagreement with our decision and to criticize our reasoning as they fit. But saying or implying that the court is becoming an illegitimate institution or questioning our integrity crosses an important line. Well, I think that there are several reasons why somebody would question the integrity of the Supreme Court that would be legitimate. One of them would be Ginny Thomas. And the other one would be headlines like this. It's a pretty important line. The actual integrity, not the saying it. Wait, what? What do you mean? Wait, did I miss something? He said questioning our integrity. The justice's integrity. Brianna Joy Gray is a fake leftist operative. Yeah, she's a clown, undeniably. So now that we have that kind of set up, oh, he's the one that crossed an actual line. Oh, yeah, 100%. They all did. They all did. Okay. Yeah, just more projection. Here we have Ginny Thomas now testifying before the January 6th panel. Remember, Ginny Thomas, also wife to Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who coincidentally, Clarence Thomas was the only dissenting vote on a case that came before the Supreme Court regarding this investigation, and coincidentally, her name was in several of those documents. Ginny Thomas is a longtime GOP activist who's also the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, testified for several hours on Thursday behind closed doors before the January 6th committee. The closed-door session was also confirmed by several sources familiar with the committee's work. At times, Thomas was seen entering and leaving the room where previous panel testimony had been held behind closed doors at the O'Neill House office building near the Capitol. Correct, the only dissenting vote. And then this guy is getting big mad about why we're questioning the integrity of the Supreme Court justices. Yeah. She declined to comment to reporters and left more than 4 hours after her appearance began. The committee first asked to interview Ginny Thomas about her communication with those pushing a plan to reject the results of the 2020 election, including former President Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and a key figure in the campaign, John Eastman. Eastman, a conservative attorney, drafted a memo outlining a plan to reject the electoral votes in several states and was an outside legal advisor to President Trump in late 2020. Not only that, but I believe he was also one of the people who orchestrated or who gave the idea, I think, of the fake electors to shoehorn fake electors to overturn the election. And she absolutely had something to do with this. To which then begs the question: how could you? What's the connection here, and why did Clarence Thomas not recuse himself in that case, which would constitute a massive conflict of interest? That's the problem. Yes, that is also a problem, SV Harkin. Those three justices literally lied during their confirmations, especially those three justices. So the fact that Alito is out there crying about people questioning their integrity when we have direct quotes, like these confirmation hearings are online. These confirmation hearings were recorded. We can all go back and listen to each testimony of Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and what's the other person? What's the other guy's name? All who said a variance of, Roe v. Wade is like the law of the land, and such. I'm paraphrasing, but the point is, they lied. The point is, they lied during their confirmation, and you can't get big mad when we're questioning that your integrity because you're a liar. Right. Settled law. What was it? Roe v. Wade was settled law. Who was the one that said that? Because it was those three who were confirmed during the Trump. Mr. I Like Beer. Is that who said that? Gotcha. Yeah, settled law. Okay, cool, dude. As Thomas testified on Thursday, California Democratic Representative Pete Aguilar told reporters that he wouldn't comment on her response during her voluntary appearance. However, he said that as with other witnesses, the panel will later share information that is relevant with the public. Thomas's testimony stretched into the mid-afternoon Thursday. I'll say broadly that the committee has been very clear that we'd like to hear from Ginny Thomas, her discussions and coordination to Mark Meadows, and specifically to John Eastman. Thomas's attorney, Mark Paoletta, did not immediately respond to requests for comment on Thursday. Last week, he said Thomas had held plans to appear voluntarily before the panel. I can confirm that Ginny Thomas has agreed to participate in a voluntary interview with the committee. As she has stated from the outset, Ms. Thomas is eager to answer the committee's question to clear up any misconceptions about her work relating to the 2020 election. She looks forward to that opportunity. Thomas has acknowledged she attended a Trump rally and in the morning of January 6th at the Ellipse, but criticized the violence at the Capitol that followed the rally. In the weeks leading up to the insurrection, Thomas reached out to Meadows in text messages raising concerns about voter fraud, legal challenges in several states alleging the fraud in 2020. Legal challenges in several states alleging fraud in 2020 election were all rejected by the courts. White House attorney and counsel for then Vice President Mike Pence pushed back against Eastman and other Trump allies' efforts to have Congress overturn the elections, saying it violated the Constitution and would be soundly rejected by the Supreme Court if the matter was ever argued there. The court refused to hear election challenges by Trump and his allies, and Justice Thomas dissented, saying that the justices should have heard the case. Interesting. So here we have another scenario where Clarence Thomas was the one dissenting, saying that he should hear, saying that the Supreme Court should hear these challenges, even though they're obviously meritless. But very interestingly, he's the lone dissenter here. And of course, it's also, again, this must be a massive coincidence. It's also true that his wife is a political activist. And of course, we have to just, it must be a sheer coincidence as well, that not only is she a political activist, but she has been crucial to continue to push these narratives of false election conspiracy theories. And I'm sure that none of this has influenced him in whatsoever. None of this. He was the only dissenter, but I'm sure that his integrity doesn't need to be questioned. Saying the justices should have heard the case, some critics argue that he should have recused himself from the case surrounding the election due to his wife's political advocacy. After the publication of her communication with Meadows, Thomas said that she was willing to appear, and months of negotiation followed. The January 6th committee was scheduled to hold its ninth and likely final investigative hearing this week, but postponed the public session due to Hurricane Ian. Chairman Benny Thompson said he planned to announce a new date soon. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all this is pure coincidence. Pure magical coincidence where the wife of a Supreme Court justice is a political activist, or an instrumental in organizing this whole Stop the Steal stuff and all that. And not Stop the Steal, she was part of another thing. I forget. She was part of the people organizing the rallies that happened, not just in January 6th, but like several rallies beforehand, protesting like the elections or whatever. And I'm sure, you know, again, coincidentally, being the wife and him coincidentally being the one dissenting voice. Interesting. Yeah. Like she helped coordinate buses of folks to the rallies. Yep. I know she was involved in several organizations, or if not created them. I forget what the complete details are, but she was heavily involved in all of that. Is heavily involved in all of that. As far as I know, she has not taken back her point of view. Justice Shield Justice's Shield spouse work from potential conflict of interest disclosures. A year after Amy Coney Barrett joined the Supreme Court, the boutique Indiana firm South Bank Legal opened its first ever Washington office in Penn Quarter, a move the firm hailed in a 2021 press release as an important milestone. The head of the office, Jesse M. Barrett, is the justice's husband, whose work is described as a firm as white-collar criminal defense, internal investigations, and complex commercial litigation. South Bank Legal, which lists fewer than 20 lawyers, has boasted clients on virtually every industry: automobile manufacturer, global banks, media giants, and among others. They've included over 25 Fortune 500 companies and over 15 in the Fortune 100. But if anyone wants to find out whether Jesse Barrett's clients have a direct interest in cases being decided by his wife, they're out of luck. What? But if anyone wants to find out whether Jesse Barrett's clients have a direct interest in cases being decided by his wife, they're out of luck. In the Supreme Court's notoriously porous ethical disclosure system, Barrett not only withholds her husband's clients, but redacted the name of South Bank Legal itself in her most recent disclosure. Over the past year, Ginny Thomas has gotten significant attention for operating a consulting business that reportedly includes conservative activist groups with interest in Supreme Court decisions as her clients. Interesting. Her husband, Justice Clarence Thomas, has chosen not to reveal any of his wife's clients, let alone how much they contributed to the Thomas family. What? So, yeah, cool, dude. Nice. Nice transparency. Nice. Cool. Her husband, Justice Clarence Thomas, has not chosen to reveal any of the wife's clients, let alone how much they contributed to the Thomas family coffers, dating back to when her consulting business was founded. Nice. Cool, dude. But a political investigation shows that potential conflict of interest involving Justice's spouse extend beyond the Thomases. Chief Justice Roberts' wife, Jane Roberts, has gotten far less attention, but she's a legal headhunter at the firm McCrae, which represents high-powered attorneys in their efforts to secure positions in wealthy firms, typically for a percentage of the first-year salary she secures for clients. A single placement of a superstar lawyer can yield $500,000 or more for the firm. Mark Jungers, a former manager partner at Major Lindsay in Africa, the firm that employed Jane Roberts as a legal recruiter before she moved to McCrae, told Politico the firm hired her hoping it would benefit from her being the Chief Justice's wife, in part because her network is his network and vice versa. No corruption, by the way. No conflict of interest. Totally cool, folks. Everything is fine. Totally legit. Roberts lists his wife company on his ethics form, but not which lawyers and law firms hire her as a recruiter, even though her clients include firms that have done Supreme Court work. Surely a coincidence, I'm sure. According to multiple people with knowledge of the arrangements of these firms, the political investigation found that some spouses of other Supreme Court justices have also had careers of their own, but none currently appear to have the potential to intersect as closely with the court's work as Barrett, Thomas, and Roberts. Justice Alito and Neil Gorsuch reported no non-investment income from their spouses in 2021. Justice Sotomayor and Kagan are not married. Brett Kavanaugh's wife, Ashley Kavanaugh, I don't know how to pronounce this, Kavanaugh, a former George W. Bush House aide, reported a salary from her position as town manager of Chevy Chase Village, Section 5. This week, the court is formally welcoming a new justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Her husband, Patrick Graves Jackson, currently serves as chief of the General Surgery Division at MedStar Georgetown University. But Jackson noted in a disclosure form filed earlier this year while serving as a lower court judge that she had previously left out self-employed consulting income that my spouse periodically received from consulting on medical malpractice cases. Like in the cases of Thomas, Barrett, and Roberts, the names of his clients were not included in the filings. As an independent branch of government, nice meme, the Supreme Court has long been determined to set its own path on ethics, with each justice left to make their own determination as to whether on when to recuse himself with cases with no enforcement mechanism to hold him accountable. Nice. Since 1979, the justices have produced annual disclosure forms that mimic those filed by their judicial underlings. The justices say the filings comply with federal ethic law, but some sources of potential conflicts, such as expensive dining and use of vacation homes, are often kept off the list. Wait, so then what's the point of that? Do not look at the man behind the curtain. I am the great and powerful Oz. That's right. But now, as the Supreme Court prepares to begin a new term after a tumultuous summer in which Roe v. Wade was upended, the long-standing gaps in its ethical disclosures are being cast in a harsher light amid revelations of outsiders using perks and money to attempt to influence the justices. When you do something like that and you break the trust in such a way, like you did with Roe versus Wade, that's exactly what's going to happen. Former religious right leader Rob Schenek said the organization has led for more than 20 years. Faith in Action engaged in an elaborate scheme to play on the justice's financial insecurities by recruiting wealthy couples to wine and dine the court's conservative members. The couples are chosen for their support of a religious rights political agenda and coached in advance in ways to make the justices feel more secure in their support of a faith-based legal agenda. And wow, I'm sure a total coincidence that the rulings happened the way they did. Again, total coincidence. Nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to see here. Schneck said the overtures to some of the justices in the first 2 decades of the century include not only highly expensive meals and club visits, but invitations for the justices to use plush vacation properties, none of which appear to have been reported on their disclosure forms. Again, totally legit. Nothing to see here, folks. The refusal to provide spousal information is also salient because justices have often noted that their salaries, $274,000 for associate justice and $286,700 for the chief justice, I imagine, in 2022, don't compare to those of elite attorneys who could make millions in private practice. That means that some of the justices who are married receive a disproportionate share of their family income from their spouses. Politico emailed a set of questions to Jesse Barrett. He did not respond. Instead, a response to that query came from a spokesperson for the Supreme Court, who said that Justice Barrett complies with the Ethics in Government Act in filing financial disclosures report. But I don't know if that applies in the same manner to the Supreme Court. They just said that they're not as ethically bound as, other federal judiciaries. A spokesperson for McCride declined to comment on the firm and Jane Roberts' behalf. In response to a broader question about the justice's spousal disclosure, the court spokesperson also cited the federal law governing judicial recusals and pointed to a nearly 3-decade-old statement in which justices with spouses or other close relatives in the legal profession rejected the notion of recusal from a case simply because a relative works in a firm involved litigation. Yeah. Selling out the country for cheap trinkets, it's a Catholic court. Yep, 100%. We do not think it would serve the public interest to go beyond the requirement of the statute and to recuse ourselves out of an excess of caution, whether a relative is a partner in the firm before us or acted as a lawyer in an earlier age. The 7 justices who adopted the policy declared, even one unnecessary recusal impairs the functioning of the court. My brothers in Christ. My literal brothers in Christ. If your wife is one of the people involved in some massive stuff, I think that is a perfectly logical grounds to recuse yourself. No, I mean like the conservative justices are Catholic. The 3, I guess, liberal justices, I don't know how religious or not religious they are. They don't really tend to show it in the court. They don't tend to show it as well. Now, Sotomayor? Yeah, but she doesn't really espouse, like, a lot of, like, religious rhetoric. I mean, you've got a Supreme Court justice who was literally a part of a cult. So... given the financial stakes involved, the interests that law firms and corporations and activist groups have in influencing the outcome of court decisions, many ethical observers believe that the court is ignoring potential conflicts at its own peril. One of the nation's leading experts in legal ethics, New York University law professor Stephen Gillers, said the gaps in disclosure about the clients of justice's spouses fuel public doubt. Yeah, I'm sure. We don't know who that is, and we don't know the amount of money. And that's a legitimate concern. Since a justice who owns 10 shares of stock at a party has to recuse even though the effect would be negligible on their finance, if that's true, why should a justice's spouse not have to review a very large payment from a client that could substantially improve a justice's quality of life? True. The vast majority of attention and on income among Supreme Court spouses has centered on Giddy Thomas, who founded her own consulting firm known as Liberty Counseling. Although her clients are now shielded from her husband's financial disclosure reports, Thomas has reportedly worked with the Center for Security Policy, a think tank accused of Islamophobia, and entities tied to conservative activist Leonard Leo. Giddy Thomas also recently reached an agreement to testify before the January 6th committee, which we talked about, meeting with the panel on Thursday. Even less is known about Jane Roberts' clients. She is a graduate of Brown University and Georgetown University Law Center and married her husband in 1996. From 1987 to 2007, she worked at the law firm now known as Pillsbury Winthrop Shaw Pittman, where she advanced to the rank of partner. In 2007, 2 years after her husband... Hey, come back. I don't need differentials, my dude. Stop trying to sell me this. Okay. Here we are. In 2007, 2 years after her husband became Chief Justice, she joined the firm of Major, Lindsay in Africa as a legal recruiter, and since 2019 has worked at McRae. Junger said the firm's effort to attract the wife of a Chief Justice were originally kept only to a small number of the firm's employees. There was a sense that Jane Roberts would be a big get for the firm, somebody who knows everyone in this town with one of the most prestigious networks in Washington. We hope that's what we were doing. He said, also emphasizing that good recruiters have a level of skill beyond just their networks. However, he noted that she was a good lawyer at a decent law firm. Her husband was an extraordinary lawyer at a very, very good law firm who became the most important person in the Washington legal scene. Give me 1 second, folks. Oops, sorry. Getting talked to the January 6th committee. Yep, that's true. That's true. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Here we are. Her husband was an extraordinary lawyer at a very, very good law firm who became the most important person in the Washington legal scene. We recruited her to help our firm with the recruitment of in-house lawyers, he said, and I think some of us realized that there was a better place for her, which was to be recruiting partners for law firms, because that's both where she was, where her husband was, and then she knew lots of very important people in the legal landscape in Washington, D.C., and that was sort of a waste to not really use that. When Jane Roberts began her role at the firm, Jungers trained and mentored her. They started role-playing exercises to practice phone calls with potential clients. She was a recruiter, and Jungers was the potential client. Tina! Welcome, everybody. Tina rating with a party of 22. Welcome, 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 everybody. Folks, if you do not know who I am a Difficult Truth. We do the news, we do the politics Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Join me and the co-host on Sundays around noon Eastern Time for Sunday Fun Day. If you guys stick around and you like the content, feel free to hit the follow button. It does really help us out. And make sure that if you really enjoy the content, spread the word far and wide that this is the chillest place to be for the news and the politics. One of the chillest places to be. So make sure you spread that word far and wide, hit the follow button, do all that awesome stuff. Appreciate that, Tina. If you guys don't know, I highly recommend you check out twitch.tv/Tina_2. Go show them some love, alright? Welcome, everybody. I hope you enjoy your stay. To catch everybody up about what we're going over, Justice Samuel Alito apparently got big mad that people are questioning the integrity of the Supreme Court, or I guess the integrity of the justices, which we're currently going over as to, I wonder how that could have happened. Alio with the 6 biddies, thank you so much, appreciate that. Junger sat in Jane Roberts' chair, and she sat in the guest chair behind Jane Roberts in her office. He recalled there was a bookshelf with a photograph of her and her husband and with world leaders. He recalled seeing the Pope and Queen Elizabeth among them. Junger said Jane Roberts soon proved to be highly effective at her job, and he noted that nearly everyone in the legal world would take her phone calls. The high-profile couple's social scene is filled with fairly close circles, events of Washington, D.C., lawyers who mingle over exclusive events like wine-drinking groups, book clubs, and poker games. As opposed to even some couples where he'll have a network and she'll have a network, it's not really like that. Junger said, while also expressing his great admiration for Jane Roberts. Jane Roberts' clients include lawyers or law firms, sometimes with active Supreme Court practices. Leonardo Leo is a Knight of Malta and the president of the Federalist Society who got a lot of these goons on the SCOTUS. Jesus. Yikes. That's a giga yikes. I didn't know the guy, the name. Damn. At least some of which were more likely to work with her because of her status and as the Chief Justice's spouse. Totally not a conflict of interest. 3 people close to the law firm still Politico. They include the British-American firm Hogan Lovells. According to 2 people with knowledge of the arrangement, Hogan Lovells did not provide a comment. Jane Roberts has also represented top government officials at federal agencies with direct interests in court business, said Stephen Nelson, another D.C. area hiring consultant, who said that he and Roberts had referred candidates to one another in the past. I think because of her background in law firms, she had already a strong reputation and a network, but being married to the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court certainly doesn't hurt. Totally not a conflict of interest. One consultant who worked with a firm with a Supreme Court practice, and the firm explicitly decided to work with Roberts because of her marriage to Chief Justice. It is known that her access to people is heavily influenced by her last name, said the consultant, who was granted anonymity under the condition that the firm for which the person consulted would not be named. It's no secret within the industry. Jesus Christ. When South Bank Legal opened a new Washington office headed by Jesse Barrett in 2021, the firm hailed the expansion in a press release as a demonstration of the firm's national capabilities. A physical presence in Washington helps us solidify our national service footprint, said Jesse Barrett, managing partner of the firm's DC office, also husband to Amy Coney Barrett. It's an exciting step, and our clients will benefit from our expanded ability to handle matters nationwide. Earlier this year, Barrett acknowledged the tension between her and her husband's work. In an interview at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, Fred Ryan, former Politico chief executive officer and current publisher of the Washington Post, questioned Barrett on the challenges of balancing the couple's careers. Barrett maintained that they were careful to avoid conflicts, but argued that society's expectations must change. What? Oh, listen, you're just gonna have to deal with it. Corruption is just like how things are, dude. Expectations must change, alright? You're just gonna have to let me be corrupt, dudes. It's all good. But, I think we're living in a, quote, I think we're living in a time where we have a lot of couples who are both working, and I also think that the court and, what? What is this word salad? Society just has to adjust to expect that. The problem isn't that both of you are working. That's not the problem. The problem isn't that both of you are working. I would maybe even extend that to say the problem isn't even that both of you are working within the legal, area. The problem is the conflict of interest and corruption. That's the issue. When asked about whether there should be a court guideline for working spouses, Barrett facetiously pushed back against the idea. I don't think that most of the spouses would be very happy about those guidelines. I wonder why. She quipped, certainly when I try to give my husband guidelines about what to do and not to do in the house, even that doesn't go over very well. Okay, but this isn't like some marital kind of thing about relationships, my dude. This is about conflict of interest. If you're a Supreme Court justice, arguably that is a very high up position, very important position. And if you've got a conflict of interest, you can't surprise Pikachu face when people are questioning your integrity and when people are questioning the legitimacy of the court, of the institution. You can't surprise Pikachu face, and you can't answer with, well, they're just gonna have to get used to that. In the cases of Jesse Barrett, even the name of his firm is unavailable in his wife's most recent disclosure statement. Information about spouse's employment is required in the form, but justices may ask to redact it for certain reasons. Okay. Despite Barrett's profile appearing prominently on the front of his firm's website and its touting of his employment in a press release, the name South Bank Legal was redacted on Justice Barrett's public financial disclosure filing in 2021. The term that would allow a justice to redact some information appeared to be somewhat broad. Of course, a memo authored by a financial disclosure advisor to judges offers a rationale to request the exclusion of broad categories of information on the grounds of, quote, safety. Yeah, whatever. People borrowing to SCOTUS are we are wonderful rich lawyers and judges. Don't let poor society judge us. True. You're just gonna have to get used to it. Corruption? Psh. Man. You silly plebs. You're just gonna have to get used to it. The concern is based on increasing threats against the judiciary, culminating in such high-profile events as the killing of a federal judge's son in New Jersey by a man who once appeared before her in court, and the arrest of an alleged attempted assassin outside the Washington, D.C. area of Justice Kavanaugh in June. Okay, but, while I understand that maybe that could be a legitimate concern, what is disclosing, like, very relevant information? I would assume that a public company it isn't like information that would compromise the safety of the justice. And if so, how? The memo issued by the director of legal services at a firm, like, I don't know if, like, you have to put every single minute detail, but, like, some information I think is pertinent that the public knows. I think really what they're scared of is the people connecting the dots about how conflict of interest, how exactly involved and corrupt these justices are. I think that's the issue. Leo recently got a donation of $1.6 billion that he has sole discretion over to get right-wingers into office, probably state attorney generals and the like. Yikes. That's gross. Oh, that's the dark money? I think there was an article about that. I'm pretty sure we went over it. It was like one person, right? It was one person. It was like a CEO or some type of leader of a company that decided to give like a one-time big donation. Was that the story? It was like a one-time thing, right? Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that's the guy. It was a one-time thing. Cool, dudes. Good system. Great. Awesome system. Totally working. The memo issued by the Director of Legal Services at a firm that helps judiciary members fill out their forms also explained that the judges may ask to redact their position at a homeowners association, travel reimbursements, a teaching arrangement, or an agreement with a law firm. As it could, quote, indicate your presence in an unsecured location or present a security concern. Even a club membership or a lake cottage could require redactions for security concerns, said the memo. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, but I think the bigger question is what kind of actions are you engaging in whereby you feel the need to redact them from public knowledge? Otherwise, there would be threats placed upon you. Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse keeps up with the stuff and puts it into the congressional record by making speeches. Nice. A spokesperson for the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts declined to comment on the memo, but said only a small fraction, fewer than 4% of reports filed with the office last year sought redactions. Russell Wheeler, a visiting fellow of the left-leaning Brookings Institution, underscored the balance between privacy and regulation. However, he noted that the justices are not the average person. It's a rule of reason that says the judges must be willing to accept restrictions on their behavior, and that the ordinary citizens would find burdensome. He said, "I think that probably applies to justices, spouses, and families as well." Like the reporting policies, the court observes the requirements for justices to recuse themselves from matters are also limited. A court spokesperson asked about Jesse Barrett's work, pointing to the Code of Conduct for Judges and a federal statute that says a judge or justice should disqualify himself when the juror's spouse has a financial stake in the proceeding before the court. The spokesperson also said that Barrett adopted a group of justices issued in '93 calling for a recusal when a relative's compensation could be substantially affected by the outcome here, including cases where a relative is a law firm partner that receives a share of its profits. However, under the standard accepted by Barrett, a justice need not recuse if the law firm commits to permanently excluding income from Supreme Court litigation from that spouse's partnership shares. An email to Jane Roberts also brought a reply from a court spokesperson who said that the Chief Justice's wife developed her recruiting practice. She drew guidance from a 2009 Judicial Conference ethics panel opinion that says, as a general proposition, the fact that the spouse or spouse business has a business relationship with an entity that appears in an unrelated proceeding before the judge usually does not require the judge's recusal. There is somehow a movement on Capitol Hill to change the Supreme Court ethic rules, though it has found only modest traction. When Congress passed the ethics legislation in 2012, it expanded disclosure for stock trading by members of the House and Senate, their staff, and some executive branch members. Sorry about that. And some executive branch employees. However, judges and justices were omitted from the more timely reporting required by the Stock Act, which is like wild to me because, like, man, that's a problem. That's a problem. It took a decade, but in April of this year, Congress enacted a bill sponsored by Senator Chris Coons and John Cornyn, Representative Deborah Ross, and Representative Darrell Issa. Ending that exemption, President Joe Biden signed the bill in May, and the requirement for judges and justices to report stock trades more promptly kicked in last month. Okay, so last month we finally addressed this. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, which you just mentioned, has introduced the Supreme Court Ethics Recusal and Transparency Act, or secret, right? Is that what it spells out? No. Skirt. Which would require the Supreme Court to, among other provisions, establish a recusal requirement, including cases that involve the income of a justice's spouse and certain required disclosures. In a statement to Politico, a White House noted that the disclosure requirements for justices lag behind other senior government officials. The bill aims to address the weak ethics and transparency rules before the court's reputation is damaged beyond repair. Yeah, maybe a little bit too late for that. The ethical rot at the court continues to spread, and the public faith in the court erodes with it. The question about financial conflicts of interest are one area of concern among many. There's also the flood of dark money influencing bearing down on the court, from nameless donors behind judicial selection to the orchestrated flotillas of anonymous amici curiae lobbyists lobbying the justices, to the spate of partisan decisions handing wins to corporations and big donor interests. True. Until recently, concerns about potential conflicts of interest tended to focus on appearances alone, but recent revelations suggest that certain interest groups have actively sought to influence the justices with expensive dining and entertainment, playing on their financial insecurities. Shinek, a minister who headed Faith in Action from 1998 to 2018, cited Thomas and Alito as targets of religious right overtures. This is gold. The same dark money guy got $28 million anti-Muslim DVDs to homes during the 2008 election. Jesus. Yikes. Along with the late Justice Antonin Scalia, Shinek said that he would recruit wealthy couples to wine and dine the justices with a goal of tacitly urging them to be more comfortable expressing their religious beliefs. We would rehearse lines like, "We believe you're here for a time like this," Shinek told Politico, referring to Old Testament book of Esther, in which the Hebrew woman born with the name Hadassah becomes queen of Persia and succeeds in preventing a genocide of her people. Jesus. The effort openly sought to exploit the justice's willingness to accept free meals and entertainment from supporters and not to report all such private hospitality in their disclosures. Even beyond Shinek's allegations, Scalia was a frequent beneficiary of free travel with people with interest before the Supreme Court. In 2016, he died while on an exclusive hunting trip at Cibolo Creek Ranch, where he was the guest at John Poindexter, a financial services mogul who owned a company which had a case before the Supreme Court just the previous year. Nice! Cool. Very cool. The ranch is a famed destination for celebrities and European royalty where guests hunt birds and big game. Gross. Scalia had made the journey to Marfa, Texas in a private plane. Nice. With C. Allen Foster, a Washington attorney whose past clients including Republican interests and the Iraq War contractor Blackwater. Nice. Scalia's duck hunting trip to southern Louisiana with former Vice President Dick Cheney at a time when the Supreme Court was considering a case involving Cheney's energy task force was also chronicled in the media, but did not ultimately appear in Scalia's disclosure forms. Cool, dude. Scalia refused to recuse himself in this case, rallying to the defense of social intercourse in Washington and savaging what he termed so-called investigative journalists. Yeah, get big mad because people are calling you out on your, bullshit. While the political branches can perhaps survive the constant baseless allegations of impropriety that have become the staple of Washington reportage, this court cannot. The late justice wrote, "The people must have confidence in the integrity of the justices, and that cannot exist in a system that assumes them to be corruptible by the slightest friendship or favor, and in an atmosphere where the press will be eager to find footfalls." My brother in Christ, you cannot even be seen doing anything that can be even interpreted as a conflict of interest. That's the whole point, my brother in Christ. Because if you do that, then people will perceive it as improper, and then then people start to lose faith and question your integrity. And I'm sorry, but if you're out there being wined and dined, or if you're out there having resort trips or hunting trips, and then coincidentally you're having these trips with people that you've taken a case for a year ago or within close enough timeline, then yeah, my dude, people are going to question the integrity, your integrity and the legitimacy of the court. Efforts to pressure the Supreme Court justice to adopt, and furthermore, why are the Supreme Court justices so defensive about accepting more stringent ethic rules, and get so oddly defensive when being questioned about these kind of things? That's kind of weird. Efforts to pressure the Supreme Court justice to adopt more stringent ethical rules have often turned on the question of whether the court, at the summit of an independent branch of government, must follow the dictates of Congress and another co-equal branch. In 2007, following a round of public criticism about judges' attendance at retreats hosted by nonprofit advocacy groups, the Judicial Conference created a policy requiring more prompt and detailed disclosure about such events and their sponsors. However, the justices were omitted from the rule and don't post such disclosures even when attending or speaking at the same events. Right, so, okay. Cool, dude. The rules literally apply to everybody else except them. Nice. In a 2011 report, Roberts noticed that the High Court has never addressed whether Congress has the power to impose financial reporting requirements on the justices. Still, he noted, the justices comply. He said the same was true of the Congress mandate for certain recusals. In more recent years, Roberts has expressed concerns about the lapses in federal courts' ethic practices and undermining confidence in the judiciary. Well, that's you, my dude. In his most recent annual report on the state of the federal judicial system, he lamented the findings of a Wall Street Journal investigation that identified nearly 700 instances over the span of 9 years where the federal judges ruled on cases which they or their families had some financial interest. Yikes. They're already in charge? Yeah, that doesn't mean what they're doing is right. Yeah, we should stop waiting till it's too late and the bad guys are in charge. Yeah, well, yeah, I see what you're saying. They're already in charge. Unfortunately, yes, but it doesn't stop us from criticizing them. Correct. The justices feel that they don't have to follow uncomfortable rules and or standards. Correct, because they're engaging in some suspect behavior, and now people are starting to question them. So they're getting a little bit defensive. They are using their Catholic agenda as an excuse to use their power inappropriately, and illegitimately, and hiding behind God. True. Let me be crystal clear. The judiciary takes this matter seriously. No, I don't think so, my friend. Roberts wrote, we are duty-bound to strive for 100% compliance because public trust is essential, not incidental, to our function. Individually, judges must be scrupulous, attentive to both the letter and the spirit of our rules, and as most are, collectively our ethics training programs need to be more rigorous, but they also need to apply to you. Despite those concerns, the Judicial Conference has pushed in recent years for more legal authority to keep personal details about federal judges and their family members out of the public domain, citing security concerns, threats, and acts of violence. For more than 2 years, the judiciary has pressed Congress to grant special protections to a wide swath of information about judges and justices and their family members, including primary and vacation homes, details on their vehicles and their spouses' employment and other affiliations. Some proposals drew criticism for intruding on free speech rights protected by the First Amendment. The Federal Judicial Conference has backed pending legislation that would allow judges to force government agencies and social media sites to take down certain categories of information deemed to pose a security risk. Senator Rand Paul has twice blocked a floor vote on the bill by insisting that federal lawmakers get the same protection. Some court watchers say that the disclosure and ethics policy have already done about as much as feasible to ferret out conflicts. It seems like it's impossible in the real world for there not to be some outside factor affecting the judges, said the Kurt Levy of the Conservative Committee for Justice. We probably just have to live with that and trust. Oh yeah, listen, it's just a thing that's going to happen, and that's it. We're already putting a lot of faith into justices, so when they break that, then yeah, that's a problem. There's a semi-fiction that whatever their ideological or political or other differences, they put that aside. I guess we have to kind of trust them not to be influenced by who someone is working for or what cause they're working for. Yeah, but you're gonna have like to draw some lines, my dude. You can't just throw up your arms and say like, well, I guess we're just gonna have to live with this. No, that's not how this works. All right, if you have like literal obvious conflicts of interest, obvious ethical questions, then you need to address those. Which brings us to this. Alito questioning Supreme Court legitimacy crosses an important line. This is rich. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, who wrote the decision earlier this year overturning Roe v. Wade, told the Wall Street Journal that implying the court is illegitimate crosses an important line. Alito offered the remark in response to an inquiry from the Journal about whether the court's justices were concerned that the public was losing faith in the Supreme Court after a series of controversial decisions that have roiled public debate. It goes without saying, quote, "It goes without saying that everyone is free to express disagreement with our decisions and to criticize our reasoning as they see fit," said Alito, one of the 6 conservatives on the court. But saying or implying that the court is becoming an illegitimate institution or questioning our integrity crosses an important line. And what line would that be? Like, we can't question your integrity, even though, like, 3 of your justices have lied in their confirmation hearings. We can't question your integrity when we've got the wife of a Supreme Court justice, a couple of the spouses of the Supreme Court justices being obvious conflicts of interest, like actively, and then by that extension, if the integrity of these justices, of several justices, are compromised, then why is that such a stretch to begin to question the Supreme Court as the institution? The decision overturning Roe v. Wade, which is a Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, was perhaps the most dramatic court ruling in decades and has become a major flashpoint in the midterm elections. It also appears to be contributing to changing views on the court. Yeah, no shit. Polling in late July shows just 38% of Americans approve of the High Court, down 22 points from last September. While overturning precedents is not uncommon, the ruling marked the first time the court has overturned what was previously an enshrined constitutional right based on other court rulings. The court, with a 6-3 conservative majority, also delivered conservative rulings on environment, gun control, and religious freedom last term. Liberal Justice Elena Kagan has made public appearances raising concern that the court's conservative majority has diminished the credibility of the court. Speaking at a forum with the Northwest University Pritzker School of Law in Illinois this month, Kagan said that the court is only legitimate when it's acting like a court. Why is it that people abide by its judgment? It's not because they agree with everything the court does. Presumably, it's because they have some understanding that even if they don't agree that the court is doing its job, that the court is performing this critical function in a rule of law society in a constitutional democracy. Chief Justice Roberts disagreed with Kagan at a judicial conference in Colorado Springs. Simply because people disagree with an opinion is not a basis for questioning the legitimacy of the court. Well, no, it's not just that. It's not just because people disagree, my dude. That's right. They have no code of ethics, unlike the rest of the judiciary. Yes, there are allegations that 2 of the justices have engaged in very dubious behavior. Brett Kavanaugh with the whole Christine Blasey Ford incident, and Justice Clarence with the Anita Hill incident. Simply because people disagree with an opinion is not a basis for questioning the legitimacy of the court. Well, the reason why the legitimacy of the court is being questioned is because your integrity of a lot of your justices is compromised, my dude. That's why. That's why. Why would I believe in the institution of the Supreme Court when you've got people lying? When you've got people lying in their confirmation hearings? That's the problem here, my dude. Partisan lines color the views of the court. In an August poll, showed just 13% of Democrats approved the court compared to 74% of Republicans. Significantly, GOP approval climbed from 45% in September of 2021, while Democratic approval dropped 36% in the same time period. In a recent appearance in Salve Regina University in Rhode Island, Kagan again pushed forward her concerns about the court's legitimacy. The court shouldn't be wandering around and just inserting itself into every hot-button issue in America. It especially shouldn't be doing that in a way that reflects one ideology or another set of political views over another. Her comment drew a round of applause from the forum. Yeah, I mean, like, this is basic stuff here. But it's far more than just people disagreeing with the court. And the fact that this guy's crying about how people would, question the integrity, saying things like it crosses a certain line. Bro, you've got to be freaking kidding me, my dude. That's right. Dark money helps them get into the positions that they are in. Would anyone want a family court judge suspected to abuse their family to then making decisions on families? Yeah, like that's basically analogous to what's going on here, especially with the whole Kenny Thomas issue here, right? You've got a justice being the sole dissenter in cases that involve his wife, very obviously involve his wife. Like, come on, man. Okay, dude, sure. You can't surprise Pikachu Face that the public is very angry and questioning the legitimacy of your institution if you're engaging in this kind of behavior and you're allowing this behavior with no guardrails whatsoever. Plus the system of clerking and the judges coming from certain schools, it's kind of a mess already. Yeah, that's true. I just find it rich how this guy decides to go and cry about this when, like, it's a legitimate concern. It is a legitimate concern. I mean, I think I set the stage, and I think I presented the argument in such a way to make this guy look like a freaking clown. Alito.
Why does reducing beef emissions matter for Latin America and the Caribbean? And why did EasyJet drop its carbon offset scheme? Welcome to the Climate Recap from the Beckosphere Climate Corner, your go-to place for international and US-based climate news. I'm Becky Hogue, a climate communicator. Today is Thursday, September 29th. Let's jump right into today's news.
The Racco, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. And you just made it to be the 2000th follower. That gets a round of applause. We crossed that big number today. I like to lurk around. Well, I appreciate that. Hang tight. Appreciate that. Thank you.
The World Bank just pledged $2 billion to go towards Pakistan as floodwaters recede and the country mourns the loss of more than 1,600 people. Most crops have been wiped out, millions are displaced, and the World Health Organization warns of a second crisis looming, the waterborne illness crisis. The National Disaster Management Authority estimated that at least 100 people have already died from dengue fever, malaria, and typhoid. Pakistan has sent about 10,000 doctors, nurses, and other medical staff to the most impacted Sindh province. Meanwhile, Vietnam downgraded Typhoon Noru to a tropical depression as it made landfall in the Quang Nam province yesterday. The storm brought 72 miles per hour or 117 km per hour winds and heavy rainfall that could spur landslides and flooding. Vietnam is primarily vulnerable to extreme weather events, with predominantly flooding and landslides killing 139 people last year. Noru previously hit the Philippines as a Category 3 typhoon, killing at least 8 people and flooding farmlands. And Cuba joins Puerto Rico in being without electricity after Hurricane Ian hit the island nation as a Category 3. Ian destroyed Cuba's valuable tobacco farms, but no fatalities have been reported. Ian is now on top of Florida's west coast as a strong Category 4, the strongest hurricane to hit the west coast of that state in a century. Originally, it was heading straight for Tampa and St. Petersburg, but at the last minute, it curved a bit more than expected to hit Fort Myers and Naples more directly. The whole state is experiencing at least tropical storm impacts, if not the wrath of a hurricane in full force. Mass evacuations of the west coast were underway until the evening prior. Climate change has made this hurricane more intense through sea level rise, increasing flooding in the area, and the unusually warm Caribbean water providing fuel to the storm. Now let's look at some climate studies. A new analysis from the Center for American Progress determined that offshore wind gives 125 times more return in investment for taxpayers than investing in offshore oil and gas operations. This is because developers are willing to spend 125 times more for offshore wind lease sales than for offshore oil and gas leases. From 2019 to 2021, the average winning bid from offshore oil and gas lease sales was $47 per acre. By contrast, the average winning bid for wind lease sales was just over $5,900 per acre. Now, this could be just due to the fact that offshore wind is a newer form of energy, but it could also mean wind is just a better investment for taxpayers than fossil fuels. According to the report, when the social cost of carbon, or how much emitting greenhouse gases impacts the environment, human health, and the economy, is added to the mix, an acre of oil leases cost taxpayers $16,000, while an acre of gas leases costs $2,800. Offshore wind has practically no social cost of carbon to calculate. Then, looking at the agriculture industry, a new report by the Inter-American Development Bank shows that reducing beef's carbon footprint will be a main factor in whether Latin America and the Caribbean are able to effectively decarbonize. Agriculture and related land use changes make up over half of this region's greenhouse gas emissions, and the main source of these emissions within this sector is cattle ranching and the beef industry. More than 77% of agriculture land globally is used for livestock, either for grazing or food production. The industry employs 15% of the region's people. And beef production is expected to increase by 125% by 2050 unless trends change. The banks say meeting the Paris Accord goals of keeping warming well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels will require sustained improvement in crop yield along with dietary changes to reduce meat demand, particularly red meat. It calls for shrinkage in agricultural land use in favor of biodiversity-rich and carbon storage ecosystems. Moreover, supply and demand need to be quelled in tandem for a lasting effect. We have several climate victories today. During the Hydrogen Energy Ministerial meeting in Tokyo, more than 20 countries, including Japan, the US, Australia, and Germany, just agreed to boost their output of low-carbon hydrogen to at least 90 million tons by 2030. Low carbon means either hydrogen that's produced as a byproduct of gas, called blue hydrogen, with attached carbon capture and storage, or hydrogen produced in an electrolyzer using clean energy, called green hydrogen. Hydrogen can be used to reduce emissions in hard to decarbonize sectors like aviation, steel, and chemicals, but hydrogen should be produced near where it's needed to reduce its chance of leaking. Past the harder stuff to reduce emissions, though, hydrogen is an expensive form of energy to rely on for everyday use. The 90 million number is just slightly under the 95 million ton target recommended by the International Energy Agency, or IEA, to maintain Paris goals. One of the main arguments I hear from people opposed to switching to clean energy is that solar and wind will contribute a lot to the landfill because their parts aren't recyclable. Well, in early August, the renewable energy company Siemens Gamesa reported that recycled blades were used at the Kaskagi offshore wind farm in the North Sea.
Nice.
And now recycled blades are becoming available for onshore wind turbines too through the Recyclable Blades project.
Nice. That's actually really good. That is a capital W.
It turns out 85% of wind turbine blades are already able to be recycled, but most companies just stick their gigantic blades in the landfill. Recyclable Blades aims to change this trend. Siemens Gamesa is planning to only produce fully recyclable wind turbines by 2024 and has partnered with Wind Europe and industry peers such as GE Renewable Energy and Vestas to call for a Europe-wide ban on trashing blades. In the aviation industry, EasyJet was originally the first to offer carbon offsets for its flights, and now it's the first to stop offering these offsets starting in December. Carbon offsets usually involve paying a third party to conserve a carbon-rich ecosystem, plant more trees, or invest in a carbon capture and storage project. There are no regulations around this industry, and it contains a lot of dishonest players that'll be happy to double count a piece of land for an extra buck. Meanwhile, offsets provide an easy way for companies to claim they're carbon neutral without actually doing any of the hard work to reduce their emissions. All of this was determined to be the case after a joint investigation looked into EasyJet's carbon offset scheme in 2019. Due to this scrutiny, EasyJet has now announced that it will no longer offer carbon offset options for customers after December, saying it is instead going to focus on increasing the energy efficiency of its planes and investing in biofuels and carbon capture technology to reach its goal of 35% emissions reduction per passenger kilometer by 2035. The company claims these efforts are backed by the Science Based Targets initiative. EasyJet has already ordered 168 more energy efficiency planes from Airbus. Over to Australia now, where the Victoria State announced plans to invest $102 million or 94 million pounds in battery energy storage to help reach its goal of producing half of its electricity via wind and solar by 2030. This money will go towards developing 2.6 gigawatts of battery storage capacity by 2030 on its way of getting 6.3 gigawatts on the grid by 2035. And then in the US, the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, announced the development of an environmental justice office to address the disproportionate harm climate change and other environmental issues have on lower-income communities and communities of color. This larger office will combine 3 mid-level offices that cover environmental justice, civil rights, and conflict prevention and resolution to form one high-level office. The office will have an operating budget of $100 million and will oversee the implementation of a $3 billion climate and environmental justice block grant program created through the Inflation Reduction Act. Finally, Seattle, Washington just launched a $6.5 million Green New Deal Opportunity Fund to create climate resiliency hubs, electrify city-owned buildings by 2035, increase affordable housing, support climate data collection, and increase community engagement and education on climate issues and solutions. The resiliency hubs will give people a space to escape from wildfires and extreme heat events, both of which are becoming more common in the Pacific Northwest. Time for the climate fails. The Australian government is currently considering 29 applications for new coal mines and mine expansions. If all of these were approved, they would emit as much as 17 billion tons of carbon dioxide, according to a study by Move Beyond Coal. That's equivalent to more than half of the country's emissions over the last year. It's unclear which way Prime Minister Albanese will lean, as he has increased Australia's climate commitments, but he has also signaled support for gas and coal. Australia is the second largest exporter of coal in the world. Off the coast of Europe, hundreds of millions of cubic meters of methane gas is bubbling up from the sea as Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines were mysteriously gashed. And by mysterious, I mean sabotage. Even though neither pipeline is really being used after Russia shut off Nord Stream 1's flow earlier in the Russian-Ukrainian war, and Nord Stream 2 never became operational, gas was still in both of these pipelines. Methane is 84 times a more potent greenhouse gas than CO2 for the first 20 years they're in the atmosphere. The Russians blame the US for the sabotage, and everyone else blames Russia. Meanwhile, in the UK,
Wait, the Russians blamed us for it? How would that even make sense? Okay.
Environmental groups condemn Prime Minister Truss for planning to suspend environmental protections in certain areas called investment zones. These areas will also receive big tax cuts, lax planning rules, and won't have to comply with having affordable housing nearby. 6 of these zones have been picked out around England, and they're encouraging Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland to follow suit. The Wildlife Trust and the National Trust, representing 6 million members, called this...
It makes no sense for Russia to have done it. I don't know if they did it themselves. I don't know. Everyone's claiming that... I don't know who is to blame here. I don't even know if it was them, to be honest. I don't know why they would sabotage their own thing. The reality is, at this point, I'm not sure who did it.
Plan a, quote, unprecedented attack on nature. And in South America, Brazil continues to beat its own Amazon rainforest deforestation record back to back. This month was the worst September for fires in Brazil's portion of the Amazon since 2010, according to government data published Monday. The National Space Research Agency reported 36,850 fires so far, which is a 120% spike from this time last year. August and September are considered the burning season there, where the agriculture and mining industries purposely light the forest on fire.
Your ads just scared me. Wait, what? What ads did you get? What ads did you get, Maple Leaf Dragon? The Smile movie? What? That's weird. I think it was the US. Biden threatened to do that back in late winter. What, to sabotage the gas pipeline? I don't know about that. Like what would be the point of that? To do what? We can just keep squeezing them with more and more sanctions if we wanted to. I don't know why we would need to engage in that. That's a triggering film and ad campaign. What's it about, though? The Smile movie?
To clear space for industry operations. As I've said many times, the Amazon rainforest is a vital ecosystem for regional and global climate stability and biodiversity. The more these fires happen, the closer the ecosystem gets to reverting into a savanna where it would release more carbon than it takes up. Many parts of the rainforest already are net carbon sources at this point.
Which is incredibly scary, the fact that like the Amazon is in the condition that it is. That is very, very worrying. The US and NATO didn't shut off the pipeline, the Russians did. Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Point. Next week is Brazil's presidential election, where President Bolsonaro will run off against former President Da Silva. Bolsonaro is an advocate for rainforest deforestation, while Da Silva is an advocate for rainforest conservation. Even though Da Silva is slated to win, Bolsonaro might not allow the transfer of power, and he has a lot of military support, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, like that's a scary like scenario there in Brazil. If Lula da Silva is like a very beloved left-wing candidate that was the president of Brazil for a while, and if he happens to win, and this guy doesn't want to relinquish power, sheesh. The slash and burn for the meat industry, yep. Smile Film has a suicide demon, and you murder for demon to jump to the next person. Oh, it's a horror film. Gotcha.
Finally, let's finish up today's episode with another update on the U.S. government spending bill, which West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin attached an energy permitting bill to. Republicans and progressive Democrats combined forces to reject Manchin's bill. Democrats did so because it would compromise environmental protections, and Republicans did so because they just frankly didn't want Manchin or Democrats to get another win. The spending bill did pass, though, so the government won't have to shut down. And that was your climate recap for Thursday, September 29th. If you like the work I do, please follow this podcast.
True. All right. The channel really is over here, the main channel. If you guys want to give a quick little subby, quick little support, should be right there. Galio with the gifted tier 1 sub to Maple Leaf Dragon. Wow, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we did it, folks. We got through it perfectly. And smoothly. All the headlines we did. I'm getting ready for a long weekend tomorrow. I took the day off. So I'm super... stop it. So I'm super happy about that. Thanks for the gifted sub. I appreciate it. Had to wait till next week to resub. Hey, listen, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just to be clear, this is what I'm gonna have to subject myself to. Um, I may have to address this video. Depending on how much nonsense is in this video. The barrels of bi-weekly paychecks. Yikes. Sometimes that really does mess me up too. So somebody talked about like Brianna Joy Gray being like a fake leftist, and I think I made another reference, or we were talking about, oh yeah, the Rising. She's on the Rising, unfortunately, somehow. Whatever. Well, the YouTube algorithm fed me this wonderful video. Apparently, on the Bad Faith podcast, which is aptly named, I mean, like, unironically, what a great name, for her. What a solid name, for her podcast, the Bad Faith podcast. Oof. Like that's just like the chef's kiss, of names for her. Is having this guy on. Talking about, was the left wrong on COVID? It's 36 minutes long, so I don't know if I'll play it on stream next week, but we'll see. And during a 100-year pandemic, no country will make errors or concerning any steps. Yeah, of course, exactly. Rising seems to be proving ground for breaking points to see if you're, quote, legit enough. Yeah, like, I'm sorry, but I don't like Rising. I'm sorry. I don't like Rising. Sagar unironically triggers me every time he speaks. Every time Sagar opens his mouth, I get like giga triggered. Anyways, I might have to subject myself to this at some point. And if I can speedrun this, then maybe I'll play it on stream and like go over it on a more point by point basis. And if I can do this in a very concise way, he's not so bad for a conservative light. Yeah, but he's not conservative light though. He's hiding his power level. Do not be fooled. He's there to make the far right like more palatable, I think. Yeah, do not be fooled by Sagar. He's like if Tucker Carlson was a little bit more tact, I think. No, making a figure of speech, meaning like don't underestimate his power level. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, don't underestimate his power level. And I'm making like broad suggestions. Not broad suggestions, broad statements. Saagar's totally full of himself, but his core politics are not completely repulsive. I don't know. I would say like I think he is. I think he is. But that's just me. That's just what I see. Maybe that's just what I see, especially the way he talks. He insta triggers me the moment he opens his mouth. That's the full of himself part? Yeah, but some of the things he says. Oh, man. Oh, dude. Okay, so the example, because, like, I try not to listen to him because, like, you know, I like to keep myself sane. Let's get this person out of my, there we go. Okay, much better. She triggers me, too. So... I think like one of the most latest examples that I can point to is like, remember when there was this the story about the 10-year-old child, by the way, the 10-year-old child who had to go to another state to get an abortion and stuff like that. And he was trying to, he made a statement saying like, oh, you know, and just so you know, this was an illegal immigrant. So there's like, you know, something for everybody. And I'm like, Saagar, my guy, my brother in Christ, a 10-year-old was raped. So yeah, I would say, yeah, that's pretty repulsive to say like, oh yeah, and by the way, the dude was an illegal immigrant, so there's something for everybody, you know? No, dude. Anyways, that's like the latest example that I can just kind of draw from memory. I didn't see that episode. Yeah, go find the segment or the YouTube video, or I think it's they're on Instagram too. Just search the almighty algorithm will point you in the right direction about the segment that they did on the 10-year-old who got raped. Let's see. Actually, you know what? I don't even have to go that far. Here. What is this? Breaking Bad. Breaking Points. Okay, let's see if we can find it.
So we wanted to give you guys a little update on a
Holy
case that we
shit.
had made mention of here. I think specifically I made mention of it in a monologue that I delivered, but it has been, you know, cited by the President of the United States, has gotten a lot of national attention. In the wake of Roe versus Wade being overturned, a local newspaper reported on a 10-year-old girl in Ohio who had been raped. And because she was 3 days past that state's 6-week abortion ban, she had to actually go to Indiana in order to get an abortion, to have someone who would provide an abortion. And it is still right now legal in Indiana, although that seems very set to change. So there were a lot of questions raised about this specific case. There were, you know, people, especially on the right, there was a lot of questioning of it on Fox News. Where's the corroboration? Where are the reports that are supposed to be filed? Well, now we have more confirmation that this story was this horrible situation did in fact unfold. Let's go ahead and put this tear sheet up on the screen. So an arrest was made in the rape of that Ohio girl that led to Indiana abortion drawing international attention. Here's some of the details. Rashawn Fuentes, who's to raping, he's since been charged by Franklin, as if it's not already horrific enough. The girl is barely 10. So when she was actually raped and impregnated, she was actually likely 9. It's sickening. And I mean, I want to, you know, is where you have, as they have been, but they do happen in 20, there were 50. The new reality, and actually the land in Indiana a ban all abortions starting. So she was 6 weeks. Wouldn't matter. It would be illegal. And as I referenced before, Indiana is set to call a special session to impose their own bans and specifically still be permitted in the state. Just be prepared because these are the types of horror stories that we're going to start seeing more and more.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation. Something for everybody here. The guy who committed this apparently was an illegal immigrant. So
Yeah, like, see, something for everybody here. The guy who committed this was an illegal immigrant. Yeah, go fuck yourself, Sagar. Go fuck yourself, Sagar. You see, instant Giga Trigger. I can't listen to this guy talk. I literally cannot listen to this guy talk for more than 5 seconds before I get, like, immediately Omega triggered. Yeah, that's literally by the way, in 3 minutes, that's literally the first thing that he says. Other than, I guess, his opening thing. But I think most of it has been her. Wait.
So we wanted to give you a
Yeah, literally, his first comment on this is not to be like, wow, yeah, dude, that's like really bad. And like, we should probably make sure that, you know, in cases like this, this is the exact reason as to why we should be pro-choice or anything, remotely anything humane. I think the most that he said was like, wow, terrible. And then like, oh yeah, just so you know, something for everybody. He was an illegal immigrant. What? Oh my God. Like, immediately Omega triggered. Thanks, Sagar. I'll watch the whole thing to see if he elaborates. I mean, what is there to elaborate?
it would be illegal.
This is exactly what we were talking about. This, right? So that's what.
About whether this would still be permitted in the state. Just be prepared because these are the types of horror stories that we're going to start seeing more and more.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation. Something for everybody here.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation. Anyways, yeah, something for everybody here. The other guy
who committed this apparently was an illegal immigrant, so that's what a lot of people are talking about as well. I mean, it highlights a lot. Crime and the tragedy of
No, dude, the story was about a 10-year-old a 10-year-old who was raped and the effects of conservative policy in the problems with the conservative policy. That's it. That's the story about this. That was his troll opener. I don't know if that was the troll.
For these cases. Also, this is one where I just have to come back to, this is, you can, no matter what you believe, politically, this is really unpopular. Like this, you know, like no matter what side you could be the most evangelical person on earth. You can't look at this and say that a lot of people aren't going to be outraged at situations like this. And
but that's not true either. The evangelicals are like, well, that's just God's will. Literally, the evangelicals would just tell you that that's just the way it is.
We're only a couple of weeks in.
Yeah.
So, you know, so this could stack up. And
that's right.
This is exactly what we were talking about politically, which is that it creates a hell of a lot of uncertainty whenever you have situations like this, which of course are rare, but they are going to pop up from time to time. I mean, we don't, you have to always plan for the worst case scenario because we literally know that it happens. And, you know, I think it's very disingenuous for people to say and not acknowledge that these cases aren't going to happen and to try and turn this into a bigger thing. And
But that's all the Republicans do, though. First of all, that's like all the Republicans do. And given the opportunity, Soccer is going to vote for the same people that are going to implement these policies. So at the end of the day, he's just lying. At the end of the day, he's just disingenuous and has absolutely no principles and would gladly vote for the people who would implement these policies regardless. And probably did. In fact, if I asked Sagar right now who he voted for, he would say Republicans. And if I asked Sagar after this story who he would vote for again, he would vote Republican. So, you know what? It's really that easy. And yeah, I think Sagar's vile, and he's repulsive and disgusting. Yeah, I don't think he's a troll. I think he's very serious. I think he means that. I don't think he's saying that it's wrong, but that they know most people don't agree. Yeah, well, that's obvious. Most people don't agree with this scenario, and they know that, but they don't care. Because they're not interested in democracy, fundamentally. Do you see how like this all ties around? This all ties back to that idea. Republicans don't fundamentally believe in democracy. They don't care. They know that the whole debacle with Roe versus Wade is unpopular. They know that. They know that. They just don't care. Never mind pointing the fact that it's absolutely abhorrent that this incident was even a thing. But that's neither here nor there. I think I made my point. And yeah, and the fact that he just like inserts that whole thing in the beginning, I'm sorry, but like it just doesn't jive with me. But that's just me. It doesn't jive with me at all. The way he speaks and the rhetoric that he uses and the words and language that he uses. I've been doing this for years now, and I think that like when certain people trigger me, when certain people like elicit like a response from me like that, I think it's like for a reason, and like the more I listen to them, the more I realize like just how horrible they are. But yeah, that's just me. All right. Well, I might have to subject myself to 36 minutes of this at some point. Or maybe I can avoid it. I don't know. All right, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate that. Thank you to all the folks in chat. I appreciate that. Alio with the tier 1 subs, with the gifted subs. That Russell Brand for me. Yeah. That's Russell Brand. Yeah, he triggers me too. 100%. Do you know why? Because like it's the dishonesty and like there's certain characteristics of people that I really just don't like. One of them is dishonesty. Dishonesty and dishonesty, authoritarian tendencies are like insta red flags for me. When you start talking about like things like that, and Russell Brand is on that spectrum of dishonesty / like conspiratorial stuff. Yeah, I don't like that. That kind of stuff triggers me. Like Russell Brand, the moment I see a video and like the moment I see him saying some outlandish stuff, it's like I have to respond to it. I have to push back on that because like this is just wild. So yeah, this response is the same response that I'm probably going to get from listening to this Brianna Joy Gray podcast. 100%. Yeah, nails on a chalkboard. Thank you. That is possibly the best, and not analogy, the best description, as to what I feel when I listen to these type of people. Nails on a freaking chalkboard. Exactly. 100%. So that's probably what I'm going to be hearing for the next 36 minutes as I subject myself to this podcast. But yeah, Brianna Joy Gray does that for me. She took the big walkout check from RT, Chris Hedges. Yep. Well, such is the way. Such is the way of the sellout. Okay, sorry. Sellout. I said walkout check. Sellout check. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I thought you meant like she walked out and got a big package, like what are those severance packages? That's what I thought, like a walkout check, like a severance package. Anyways, same thing, sellout check. The heart of the description is the same. I get what you're saying now. Anyways, folks, it's 7:30. I gotta get going. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Thank you so much. Alio with the biddies. Gifted subs. Tina with the massive raid. Thank you so much. Go follow twitch.tv/Tina_2. Twitch.tv/AlioShare. I think I got everybody. Thank you for all the new follows. I appreciate that. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget, hit the follow button. It does help us out. Spread the word far and wide that this is one of the chillest places to be for the news, for the politics, Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Join us on Sundays with the co-hosts. Sundays, Sunday Fun Day, around noonish about Eastern Time. Join us on the YouTubes if you guys also want to continue to help out with the channel. Just smack that big red subscribe button. It does help. If you want to keep up with any updates on the channel as we go. This weekend, tentative, stay tuned. this weekend's Sunday Fun Day. Stay tuned. We might have to move that. So we're not sure. Looking forward to the next live. Appreciate it. Join us, and thank you for the follow. I appreciate that, my friend. Welcome. As always, folks. Thank you all. Thank you, Alio. Thank you, Draco. Thank you, Maple Leaf Dragon. Thank you, SV Harkin. Thank you, the Simulacra. I appreciate you guys mixing it up in chat. Thank you so much. Michael Hassler. Keyboard Face Smash. Thank you so much. James Napper, as always. Thank you. Bipedal Meatbag. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate that. Wolfland, thank you. Thank you all for mixing it up in the chat. Just make sure, just hope I got everybody. Thank you guys for helping out. I appreciate that. You guys are what makes this channel grow. I really do appreciate all your support. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! Let's keep up the chill vibes, alright? Riverboat Jack is phenomenal. She's super chill, so if you want to keep up the chill vibes, hang tight. We're gonna go and raid Riverboat Jack, alright? Alright, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.